Following the Jays making a huge signing by signing Max Scherzer late last night, the shocking truth has been revealed behind why Ross Atkins signed yet another starting pitcher, even though they have a ton of them already. We're to break down the real reason the Jays signed Max Scherzer, as folks, there's a lot of new information, but not only that, we have the number, the official amount of money that the Jays gave Max Scherzer in this contract. His contract has been revealed, and it is way better than fans initially realized, and is quite frankly an absolute robbery. We're going to break all that down and much more in this episode, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get into it all, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, trust me, you're going to want to stay tuned to the very end of this video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Folks, I had a video late last night for you guys, as I always do, covering the news first. It was late. It was past midnight, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. We have a bunch of new news to go over today, and I want to start with this. It dropped around 1 a.m. last night. We have some new reports from this morning and things like that, but Max Scherzer is returning to the Blue Jays, as Jon Heyman first reported. $3 million in base salary with up to $10 million in incentives. And last week, Ben Nicholson-Smith mentioned that talks had picked up. And of course, I've been talking about this for a while. I mentioned in the video yesterday night when they first signed Scherzer that I was expecting it somewhere in the $10 million range. For it to be $3 million in base and the rest in incentives, this is even better than I initially realized here. Because at the end of the day, that's no money at all. And then if he hits his incentives, which we don't know what they are, maximum $13 million. And for a team that has money to spend, there was no reason in the world not to do this deal. And it is an absolute finesse, right? An absolute robbery of a signing. And I'm over the moon about it, right? And first of all, shout out Ross Atkins. Going to give him a quick round of applause here. He's been cooking this offseason. And fans initially thought, and myself included, you miss out on Tucker, you miss out on, Bo Bichette. I don't know if miss out is really the word. All of a sudden, they've turned their offseason around. Elite pitchers in, great players in, and then, of course, some guys out, really good players, Bo Bichette and stuff included. But I want to dive into a couple of different things here. And one of the reasons that they got Bo Bichette, and I briefly touched about it, or Max Scherzer, sorry, I briefly touched about it yesterday. It's not just the on-the-field presence. And the more that, reports have started to fly, and Jon Heyman started to tweet that they've been in negotiations basically all offseason, or at least been in touch, and the Jays really value. And I did some more research on some of the Ben Nicholson-Smith reporting from before, the Max Scherzer signing. It's clear they value Max Scherzer in the clubhouse, right? It is very, very clear. And he's going to be ramping up for late April or May, in case you missed that, obviously, in my video last night. And their starting depth chart now includes Gausman, Cease, Savage, Barrios, Ponce, and Lauer, and Bieber. So a ton, even though Bieber's expected to start opening day on the IL, sorry. That's a lot of pitchers, but folks, they're doing it for the clubhouse. And I saw this post on Reddit, and this is from late last night when they made the signing. And obviously, it's just some random guy on Reddit, but he makes a very good point, and it really illustrates what I've been saying for weeks now if you've been following the channel. Even if his arms were ripped off, the dude is worth every penny in the dugout. Plethora of pitching knowledge. I think this is a great move with the amount of knowledge and, of course, baseball IQ and baseball acumen that he can pass on to you. Savage, it will be invaluable. And this is exactly what I'm saying. They didn't get him to be somebody who's going to pitch 15, 20 games. Last year, they got him to be a starter, right? Because they needed starting pitching. But now they got Cody Ponce. They got Shane Bieber back. You get Jose Barrios, of course, after the, not scandal, after the kerfuffle, if you want to call it that happened in the World Series, the weirdness. They have starting pitchers now, and it's not like it's the end of the world if Max Scherzer pitches 5 games. He's making $3 million, ladies and gentlemen. $3 million. $3 million. And of course, with the incentives, I'm very curious to see what the incentives are. I'm still refreshing Twitter to see, every minute just to see what they are. But again, maybe they'll be revealed by the time this video, is live early in the morning. But regardless of that, $3 million. Clearly, Max Scherzer wanted to return to the Toronto Blue Jays. That's just an insane number. It's so low. Pitchers, everyone's getting $3 million now in baseball. And I'm sure I wish I would have been a pitcher in the MLB, of course. But it makes so much sense. And from the moment that Ben Nicholson-Smith reported the Jays were interested, it's clear it was beyond just the pitcher. It is the clubhouse. And all of a sudden, like I covered yesterday, they changed their rotation completely. Upgrades all around the board. I'm not going to see guys like Easton Lucas, or maybe even not Eric Lauer pitch. But again, Scherzer's going to be starting late. They want to keep him around Trey Savage, and they want to keep him around, keep in mind, Ricky Tiedemann as well. He was shut down with elbow soreness, but this is one of their top prospects. They have so many, young guys that Max Scherzer can really influence, whether it be Trey, whether it be Ricky, whether it be, there's a lot of other guys, right? Johnny King, all these different people in the pipeline. I can't see a reason why you wouldn't be excited about this move, especially when it's kind of clear that they, robbed the they robbed the MLB with this move. I'm sure a lot of other teams would have, been interested in giving him $3 million to be a coach, for crying out loud, even, disguised in a player's jacket. Ross Atkins got it done, and I got to give him a round of applause for that, because it truly is incredible. And as you look ahead, there's a few different things to kind of, worry about now. And I covered it in yesterday's video. Will Eric Lauer be a guy who's going to be, a actual contributor going forward? Is he even going to remain in the team? And I covered this briefly yesterday, but I want to re-bring it back up. If Lauer does want a guaranteed rotation role, there should still be pitching needy teams out there willing to strike. If the Jays sign Scherzer, it could make Lauer's path even cloudier. And I'm probably going to have another video later today on this, because it's such an important topic. But they clearly don't trust Lauer a ton, but I wouldn't even read into it that much, right? Like, I think they're perfectly fine having 7-8 starters with the uncertainty of Trey Savage's inning count. And there's a lot of people online. I was since Xero was getting upset about the Jays babying Trey Savage next year and saying that, Savage is an absolute beast. He's an absolute unit. He should go out and pitch 200 innings. They're gonna, and they rightfully so, should monitor Trey Savage innings count. I covered that in a video 2 days ago. So he might not pitch. He might go 100 innings. He might go 150. Who knows? At this point, it's going to be limited. Bieber, I don't want to say they're going to be limiting him, but he's not going to be available for a little bit. So that's another guy you have to somewhat, worry about. Beyond that, what's Jose Barrios have to offer? We don't really know at this point, right? Like, is he going to be great? Is he going to be mid? Is he going to be steady like he used to be? Cody Ponce, what's he looking like? John Schneider came out and said he's going to be a starting pitcher. There's a lot of uncertainty here. The only two certains are Dylan Cease and Kevin Gausman, right? Those are the only two in that starting rotation that you can pencil in, and you basically know what you're going to get. And even then, right, like Dylan Cease was their prize acquisition. He could have a 4 ERA. He could have a 2 ERA. He could win the Cy Young. And none of those outcomes would, surprise me. And it's at a point now where you slide Scherzer in there, puts pressure on Barrios, puts pressure on Lauer, but also gives the entire team just an elevated look. And I'm over the moon, folks, quite frankly. This is a guy who I've been clamoring for a while, and the real reason it's starting to be, people are surprised. I'm reading on Twitter like every day, and just in general, I'm surprised that he took such a low amount, like $3 million. I keep repeating myself. It's insane. He did it because he loves the Jays. He did it because he wants to be back in Toronto, and I have a feeling he would have retired if he didn't come back to the Toronto Blue Jays. But he said after the World Series that he has unfinished business. He wants to come back. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Mr. Scherzer is back. And I wonder what this means going forward for him as a potential coach of the Toronto Blue Jays. I would love to have him in a, as a assistant pitching coach or pitching mentor, kind of similar to what Kevin Kiermaier did before he left the Jays. But folks, let me know down below what your thoughts are. A very interesting last 12 hours for this baseball team. And what a robbery, an absolute finesse. And the real reason has started to emerge surrounding the Jays acquiring Max Scherzer. You guys are absolute beasts for the support. Thank you guys for watching. See you later. Cheers.
At about the time most of the baseball world was asleep, the Toronto Blue Jays quietly changed the temperature of their entire season. Max Scherzer, yes, that Max Scherzer, was suddenly back in the fold, and the move landed less like a transaction and more like a revelation. You could almost hear the collective double-take across the fan base, followed by that slow, creeping grin when the details started to come out. Because this wasn't just another veteran flyer. This was a statement wrapped in subtlety. The Jays already had pitching depth, arguably too much of it, and yet they still found room for Scherzer. That's where the real intrigue begins. This wasn't about panic. This was about leverage, control, and something a little more cerebral. And honestly, it's why I love this move so much. When the numbers dropped, reported first by John Heyman, I had to read them twice. $3 million guaranteed. 3. With incentives that can push it higher, sure, but still well within reason. In today's market, that's not just good business, that's daylight robbery. This is the kind of deal you expect to hear about years later in hushed tones, usually followed by the words, "How did everyone else let that happen?" And this is where Ross Atkins deserves real credit. Whatever you think of him historically, this is elite front office work. The Jays didn't sign Scherzer because they're desperate for innings in April. They signed him because culture matters, because October habits are built in March, and because having that mind in your clubhouse is worth far more than a mid-rotation arm with no pulse. That point was reinforced by earlier reporting from Ben Nicholson-Smith, who noted the talks had been warm for a while. This wasn't a midnight whim, this was a relationship. Scherzer wanted Toronto, and Toronto wanted everything he brings beyond the radar gun. The competitive paranoia, the obsessive preparation, the refusal to let a young pitcher drift through a bad outing without consequence. You can't put that on a spreadsheet, but teams win because of it. And let's be honest, this also creates delicious tension. A rotation already crowded now feels alive, almost restless. Someone will be pushed, someone will be uncomfortable. That's not a flaw, that's a feature. Championships are built on internal pressure, not comfort. If you're enjoying this kind of deep dive, late night, slightly unhinged baseball therapy, make sure you're subscribed to the Blue Jays Report. We live for moments like this. In the end, Scherzer at $3 million isn't a risk. It's an invitation to compete harder, think sharper, and act like a team that knows its window is open. And the scariest part? This probably isn't the last surprise. Cheers, folks.